I
program?
have my own, let me say, foundation. It's
Yeah.
called Brian's Community Outreach. Brian after me.
Yeah.
It's called BRICO, Brian's
Blackcard.
Community Outreach,
Okay, good.
where there's a scholarship right now rolling from my own pockets.
Yeah.
There's a scholarship going on. You see, in our country, government has a scholarship program, which is called the anonym it's called JAB or COOPS, whereby if an underprivileged student comes from has a lot of brains
Hmm.
and can be sponsored into university,
Yeah.
the government will pay for them as
Uh-huh.
long as they attain a certain pass mark in their O levels.
Yeah.
But my sort of scholarship does not only focus on the bright student
Hmm.
but needy. It only focuses not. You see, the government only focuses on the bright, needy students.
Right.
What happens if if you are
Average student.
we have an average student,
Yeah.
you're not that bright, but you're also needy.
Hey, everybody, I'd like to welcome you to the Nairobi Gold Rush podcast. We've got a very exciting guest with us today. We've got a man who's involved in a lot of things, a businessman, politician, involved in some philanthropy type of work. So, uh, welcome, Brian Oduor, to the podcast. We're very excited to have you with us today.
I'm very excited too because this must be a different kind of audience. I'm normally not used to this new audience, but I'll try to make sure my English is very American.
All right, that'll be very good. That'll really help our listeners because we've got listeners here in Kenya, we've got listeners in the U.S., all over
Yeah,
the
yeah,
place.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
going for
yeah,
that international audience, hopefully we'll get some good visibility here. So, maybe just to start out with, I mean, you say politician. So, maybe we can start there. What exactly does it mean to be a politician in Kenya? Like, what do you do as a politician?
Well, as a politician, there's a lot of things that you are involved with, but the dynamics are different compared to where you're from in Texas. For instance, in Kenya, we have a member of parliament. In America, you'll equate that to a congressman. Our main duties as per the constitution will be to legislate, represent, and also oversight the big government. But it goes beyond that in Kenya, in that because you are dealing with your people and they expect real time help.
Hmm.
They expect real time help. They'll ask you for school fees if their children cannot go to school. They'll ask you to even take their pregnant wife to hospital at 4 in the morning. Yeah, so as a member of parliament, you are very much engaged with the community.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, what's the current status? Are you campaigning right now?
I'm
What's
campaigning, yeah, but as above, so below. I'm already in it. I'm already in that energy.
you're deep in it? And
Yeah.
what's the constituency you're campaigning for?
Dagoretti North is my constituency.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what type of maybe are the big platforms you're campaigning on?
Well, all the platforms.
Yeah,
I think I'm on. I say I think because normally I'm not a social media guy.
yeah,
I believe social media really kidnaps your mind.
yeah, sure.
So I have my people on social media who are handling my accounts.
Uh-huh.
That is Instagram, Facebook,
Hmm.
Twitter,
Uh-huh.
TikTok.
All right, nice.
Yeah.
Um, and then maybe just tell us a little bit because I understand you're also a businessman. So tell us about the businesses you're involved with.
Well, you see, in Kenya, businesses are quite few, but I'm into real estate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm into real estate. I buy property, sell property, I lease out property. Yeah, me and a few partners.
And what does that mean? Are you involved in like houses or
Houses, mainly
mainly
apartments.
apartment houses?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what size of apartments would you mainly be dealing with? Like,
Mm, normally, it's about family size apartments from 2 bedrooms, 3 bedroom,
uh-huh.
or even 1 bedroom apartments when it comes to short term leases in terms of Airbnb.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I'm involved in majorly.
Okay. And
Yeah.
are you the guy out there that's kind of providing more of the money, or are you out there collecting the rent?
Well, you see, the thing is, I'm the guy out there collecting the rent, and I'm also the guy out there connecting people to people who will give you this rent. I'm also the guy connecting people to these houses. I'm also the guy also selling these houses. I
Yeah.
own a few,
Yeah.
yeah, and I manage a couple.
Manage a couple
Yeah.
of properties. I've always been interested in the real estate market here in Kenya because maybe from a politician perspective, you can explain this.
Well, Well, I've studied the American market. I
Yeah.
can say you guys have it going for you because of your Federal Reserve rates.
Yeah.
While as yours is as of today, I think as of this month was around 4.5%. In Kenya, it's around 10% now.
Yeah.
It was 10.4 last month. By this week, they reduced this to 10%.
Yeah.
That affects our business completely because you see, to do proper real estate, you must have a proper credit line.
Yeah.
And you must have a proper credit line. You must be friends with the bank.
Sure.
But if the bank is giving you a facility on a loan on around 20%, that's crazy. That's
Too-
even more
too
than
high.
your ROI. Yeah, they're giving you to, because the central bank interest rate in Kenya is 10%. That is the amount they're lending it to, the amount of interest they're lending to commercial banks. Now the commercial bank will lend to a businessman like myself at around 18, 19% to break even.
Yeah. I think sometimes in the U.S., I don't know what the latest rate is because I haven't spent
It's
time.
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5, and
Yeah.
it's sometimes 6.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
goes up,
but it's very normal. You see, in any economy, in any society, you have to find a balance between the lenders and the borrowers, and the borrowers are the majority.
Yeah.
But in Kenya, the interest rate has been set in such a way to neglect the borrowers, who are the poor people, and we end up paying the price through corruption. You'll ask me later, I'll tell you how.
Yeah, how it works. Well, that's what I've always wondered because you see all the construction that's happening across the city, right? You go to Kilimani, you go to Westlands. There's always these big apartments that are going up everywhere. And then you look at it and you know, okay, maybe 10 units out of 100 are rented out. You start wondering, like, how's this happening? You know, I don't know if you have some insights from the
Yeah,
political
yeah,
side. You know,
yeah.
like how does that work? I don't understand it.
Well, what is happening is that most of the people building
Yeah,
are foreigners.
yeah,
I think that's the phenomena that I've seen in many documentaries, even in New York.
yeah, yeah. New York, they
In
come
New
in.
York, there's a lot of the prices for apartments have gone so high, and
Yeah,
you find only 10% occupation.
yeah,
But what is happening is that most people are using this as I'm going to call it as it is,
yeah,
as money laundering schemes
yeah,
from foreigners who are coming to hide their money here, or from rogue politicians, or from rogue businessmen who are hiding money.
yeah,
Because it does not make sense whereby now supply exceeds demand and the prices are still so crazy.
yeah. Exactly. Because
Yeah.
you go out there and you start looking at rent of apartments. They start talking 200,000, someone 300,000,
In a third world country.
400,000.
In a third world country.
Yeah, exactly.
And my take on this is that I once I get into parliament, I intend, and especially you mentioned Kilimani. It's one of my wards in Dagoretti North. Once I get into parliament, I have to look at the CSR, the corporate social responsibility of these foreigners putting up all these high-rise buildings, all these apartments in my constituency. If they're doing the same and charging all that, what is their corporate social responsibility? Because it will seem they're minting billions.
Yeah.
And what are they doing to the constituency?
Yeah.
Yes.
And these things are very easy to check. I mean, you can go into the apartments. I know I went to visit a friend at one of these apartment complexes. Very nice place, you know, and I noticed there's no other units occupied. I said, how many neighbors do you have? There's like 100 buildings. Oh, we have like 3 guys that are here. I mean, it's not you know, brain surgery, you know, to figure out these things are happening. So it's a very easy thing to understand. I don't know how you deal with the issue, but I feel like what it does is it just drives the prices higher, would be what I guess, because now there's more supply of these fancy apartments, and they'll charge you for that because it's, like you said, it's probably just money laundering anyway. So they don't care if you're paying 400,000 for an apartment. Well, that's fine.
They have their money stored somewhere
Yeah.
for future use.
Yeah, so it just makes the price hard for the average Kenyan. I'm no people are really concerned about that because I don't know who are buying these
That's
apartments.
why once I get into parliament, I'll make sure that their CSR, amongst other things, will be to build affordable housing, houses that can be affordable to the normal common Kenyan person, the normal Dagoretti constituent person. If they go build the same houses in other constituencies, apart from Kilimani and Kileleshwa, there are some 3 other constituencies like Kangware, like Gatina and Kabiru. They could build the same type of houses but charge at a reasonable rate. Let me call it a reasonable, very affordable rate for the common man in the street of Kenya.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, have you always been involved in real estate? Is that the only business you've done, or have you been involved in other things?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was involved in music.
Oh, you started out in the music world.
But
What
that's just dreaming. But
what kind of music were you doing? Were you?
African music,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to take a liking to Fela Kuti and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But as a serious adult, it's been real estate.
Uh-huh.
It's been real estate.
So, how did you kind of come out of that world where you think about music? How did you get into this real estate and politics? I guess how
Well,
did that happen?
reality will will make you look for something more realistic.
Yeah.
And I got into real estate by introduction by a friend of mine.
Hmm.
Yeah, an older friend of mine who served as a mentor.
Hmm.
That was in Mombasa City.
Hmm.
And then after learning all the ropes, I came to Nairobi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You came to, so you're in Mombasa, you came here. And when you got involved in real estate, has it always just been buying properties, or have you been involved in the
It
construction
started
side?
purely as sales.
Yeah, it sales kind
It
of
started
trend.
purely as sales
Yeah.
for commission.
Okay, yeah.
And then you build your networks, you make a huge sale,
Hmm.
and then that's how you decide to put the money back into real estate and
Yeah.
buy a few units, a few apartments, and
Yeah.
maybe sell that. You buy them off plan and maybe sell that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could explain this to me. I mean, maybe you're a little bit past this world now, but every time I want to maybe get a house or apartment, I get advised, as an American coming in, okay, don't work with the agents because they'll cause you a lot of difficulty. What?
No, don't work with bad agents.
Yes, maybe you can explain the bad agent problem. Maybe what's happening there?
Well, apart from greediness and the social bad apples that are over there in any part of the world, I'm
Yeah.
sure there are some bad agents also in Texas.
Mhm.
Uh, you can deal with some good agents. That's all I
Yeah.
can say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you about the bad agents because
Yeah.
I don't know what
You
they
don't know
do.
that you know what they're
I
doing.
can tell you about the good agents.
Yeah. So you know the world of the good agents, but not the bad
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, no, no, no.
I mean, I know there's a lot of schemes that happen, particularly maybe this land grabbing or fake titles, things like that. As an agent, how did you kind of help your customers to
Yeah, that was
protect
normally.
themselves from those issues?
I will advise people who are normally afraid of this to, if you can't find a reputable, well-known agent who's been there for long,
Yeah.
at least, and you're trying to buy on your own, buy from the bank,
Yeah,
because the bank will have done the due diligence part for you.
right.
The bank will not lose its money, so they'll make sure that everything is proper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of nonprofit projects, a lot of land deals and construction type of projects, and there's always, at least as a foreigner coming in, I think there's always been that kind of, I don't know what you would call it, but there's a conflict between the scammers and the people really wanting to do the work. It's always been a challenge. Have you ever been involved in the construction side of these properties? Or you
No,
mainly
not
just buy
yet,
selling?
not yet.
Yeah.
That's to the most I've ever been involved to the construction side of it is to buy it off plan,
Yeah.
whereby a developer is putting up on apartment blocks,
Yeah.
and I'm able to finance and for a couple of units as it's being built before the whole thing is done.
Yeah.
Buy it on the map, buy it on the as they build it, your unit is there.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's done, you obviously it's done below market value. You sell it at market price and break even.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know when I came into the country, I was involved in some, a lot of philanthropy type work, children's homes, feeding programs, building schools, these type of things. So I was kind of got involved in construction. I didn't come from that background naturally. That wasn't my background, but I was dealing with a lot of these guys doing construction, and the problem is because a lot of these contract managers for these projects will come and say, okay, I need this one room here. I need 30 painters to paint for you. We're going to pay 30 painters, and we need, 100 jerry cans of paint for the room. They try. I'm sure you see this in the government too. Like one paperclip, we need 2 billion for the paperclip.
Normally, the people will try again. Let me say this:
Yeah.
corruption is the price a society pays for neglecting the poor.
Yeah.
Our monetary policies neglect the poor, they neglect the borrower.
Yeah.
So they have to turn to dubious means.
Yeah.
That cannot be blamed to them. I'll have to blame our current leaders for not looking into their plight.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that you find the reputable ones. You know that in any place, if I come to Texas right now,
Yeah.
I can go for the scumbag, I can go for the reputable guy.
Yeah.
The reputable guy has an address, you know them, you can ask people who've worked with them, but you can find a scam also as
Yeah.
well if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the way I would deal with projects. And this is what's always kind of interesting to me when I see, there's all these scandals, which of course here on the podcast, we don't get into politics and I'm a very interesting person to do this interview because I know nothing about Kenya politics. I can't tell you who the parties are. I don't know.
Well, it's at let me call it the penultimate to what you guys already have.
Yeah.
Because your politics is well defined.
Yeah.
You have the Yankees, you have the Confederates or
Yeah.
the Rednecks.
Yeah.
That has now, at one point, that has now developed to two houses of Republicans
Yeah.
and Democrats. At
Yeah.
one time, the Democrats represented the Confederates, and now they switched.
They switched to
Now it's for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Over here in Kenyan politics, the dynamic is such that now we have a certain region that will never coexist with a certain region,
Yeah.
ideologically and politically. So if you study politics from 2002, the alliances have been such that it's either you form an alliance between their communities, I'm going to call them communities,
Yeah.
between Kikuyu Kalenjin or Kalenjin Luo or Kikuyu Luo and their affiliates.
Yeah.
Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
So I'm calling it the penultimate because at the end of the day, once the personalities have existed the state, just like in your politics, there used to be the big names, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. But after that, it is the parties that remain. Now the parties will remain and will align to certain ideologies. So our democracy is going on well, and I think if we use America as an example, I think we are on the right track.
Yeah,
politically speaking,
trying to come to a
Yeah,
good agreement because
yeah.
and that's the way I usually deal with politics. I mean, obviously, I have my own opinions.
It's like that all over the world.
Yeah,
Even in Britain, you have the liberals and the conservatives. It's like that.
yeah. There's always two competing parties.
Yeah.
What's kind of a problem I see in this, I see this from the U.S. is that there's two divided parties, and a lot of people fall kind of in the middle, right? I mean, now maybe in Kenya it's a little bit different because you've got different tribes and it's more.
No. In Kenya, let me tell you. Let me not mention tribes, but basically there are some regions and people who want government to be all inclusive, and there's a region that does not want the government to be all inclusive. So you see, in Kenya we have like 47 tribes. There's some region that believes that the government is their right, and then there's some region that feels like, no, we have to fight for these other people, even if there's only two in their tribe and they live in a forest somewhere. As long as they're within a nation, they deserve representation. So we have to work together. We have to have a coalition of sorts. So there are people who believe in a government of coalition, and there are people who don't believe that at all. But ironically, the coalition government is what midwifed this nation. We used to have, in 1962, we used to have two parties, KANU and KADU. And after they went to London, Lancaster House, it was decided that KANU and KADU form a coalition government to the run-up of 1963 election. So coalition government has played a huge role. I'm talking about the coalition government because I'm on that side of a government we should all work together. Government is big enough for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what drives me crazy these days about the social media and everybody, because, and I'll just use the U.S. as an example, right? You have different people, they go on and they say bad things about one candidate or the other. Some people say, oh, Trump is great, he's saving the country. Another group comes and they say like very hateful things. Any candidate, they're coming, it doesn't matter who the candidate is, it's the person that's opposite of you.
They are very hateful things.
Very hateful things.
It's just not the right. Locally, in Kenya, very hateful. Like from the community I come from, our initiation rights are different. So a person from another community who is aligned to another coalition will speak on that and say that now this person is not circumcised. What is he telling us? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
You have to develop a very thick skin as a politician.
Yeah, exactly. But so I'm sure people come after you maybe with all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah,
You
if
know,
they come after me, I also have my supporters who come after them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's politics.
That's
Like you said, it's
politics.
Britain,
It's
anywhere.
everywhere. It's
Yeah,
everywhere.
but it's frustrating if people would, I think, kind of learn to like focus on the issues. You know, like we need to make the world a better place, right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal. So it seems like you're doing some of this. Maybe you have like some good
Yeah,
things you're doing, like for some
I have
programs.
my own let me say foundation. It's
Yeah,
called Brian's Community Outreach. Brian after me.
yeah.
It's called BRICO, Brian's
Like,
Community Outreach,
okay, good.
where there's a scholarship right now rolling from my own pockets.
Yeah,
There's a scholarship going on. You see, in our country, government has a scholarship program which is called the anonym it's called JAB or COOPS, whereby if an underprivileged student comes from has a lot of brains and can be sponsored into university,
yeah,
the government will pay for them as
yeah,
long as they attain a certain pass mark in their O levels.
yeah,
But my sort of scholarship does not only focus on the bright student but needy. It only focuses not. You see, the government only focuses on the bright, needy students.
right.
What happens if you are a
Average student.
we have an average student?
Yeah,
You're not that bright, but you're also needy. You see, that's when you are left after all levels. You don't have any particular skill, you don't have any particular trade. Mind you, our education system until recently was liberal. It was not aimed at improving any specific skill. So by the time you finish your O levels, 12 years of schooling, and you're 18 years, you don't have any specific skill. And you set this kid outside with no specific skill. What is he going to be? Maybe a tout?
yeah,
You understand? Maybe a gangster?
yeah.
You understand? Maybe a prostitute? You understand? Maybe OnlyFans?
Mm-hmm.
But if you give them a trade, you understand? Arm them with a trade, even if it's plumbing. You understand? Even if it's masonry work. If you give them that and you equip a young student who is needy but not bright, you understand? You equip them with a trade, then at least you'll have something to a choice to fall back on.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that kind of concept. I used to run children's homes, and so the children's homes that I was operating, they would take the children until maybe they're 18. They finished the high school essentially. Now, when the kids finish the high school, what do? And as a children's home, the government's not giving any money to the children's home. The support maybe is raised from somewhere, but the cost of the trade schools, the universities, could pay for high school maybe.
Yeah,
But
trade schools. What you're calling trade schools,
yeah,
we
trade
call
school,
them
yeah.
technical, vocational,
The
educational,
carpentry,
TVET, yeah, carpentry and
electrical,
stuff.
those things.
That's what my scholarship is
Yeah.
focused on.
Yeah, and a lot of those kids that come from the children's home, when you put kids in a children's home, let's say there's 200 kids there, they're not getting that specialized attention of, some of them do really good, but
Yeah.
they end up probably being more like the average student, because they're in a home, they're not getting a lot of, like personalized, the top scale education maybe. And then you have to go to the trade school or everything. And then there's no money. How are you going to go and do these programs? But these kids, they need a future. What am I supposed to do? Throw the kids to the
You must
the
give
street?
them a trade.
Yeah.
They must learn a
Yeah,
trade.
something.
And also, for the benefit of those people who are willing to support from Texas, you can, our website for our foundation is www.brico.co.ke. You'll spell it for them,
Yeah.
kindly.
And the sponsorships here, they go to students maybe.
You go to the school directly.
Yeah. And
You
find
pay money to the school directly.
Well, and how do you determine which students you're going to benefit? Do you have an application
Well,
process?
we have a proper application process that involves the church elders, involves the civic elders like the chiefs, and then it involves normally the community. You see, some people might try to, some deadbeats, some scumbags who don't want to pay for their school might lie. So now we have Tara. Tara, it's a Tara process. It has to be signed at all levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that his uncle paid the school fees, and the minute it hit his account, he was eating the fees and didn't pay anything. And I think that's a common story around a lot of these cases. So.
If you follow us on all our social media platforms, you'll see the students. I think you'll find their numbers.
Yeah.
You can contact them one-on-one. You can contact the school. They are learning a trade right now as we speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and
Because
maybe
I believe Leadership is not about what you say,
Mhm.
it's about what you do.
Well, and when you get the testimonials of these kids, I think it'll be a very good thing, right? I mean, because
They're all over our socials, you'll find them.
and maybe for the workforce of the future of Kenya, like what do you see? I mean, do you think these trade schools are a big place to fill the gap that's happening in the workforce right now?
Well, yes, because most of our construction, most of our projects, you find Chinese people doing it.
Yeah.
But if these students can be equipped, then we don't need the Chinese people to do this for us. These are things we can also learn and do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're doing that in the U.S. now. You know, we have the tariffs on China. Try to say, okay,
Yeah, man,
we don't
that's
need the
one
Chinese things
war.
coming in.
The Gucci bags, the
Yeah.
fake Gucci bags.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need this. So
Louis, is it called Birkin bags?
yeah, the Birkin and
Bags that are going for thousands of dollars. Now I can buy for a lady for only $20.
yeah, exactly. So we need to
Chinese
control
have
those.
hit below the belt there.
Yes, exactly.
I do the same too.
Yeah, I keep looking. I want to get one of those Chinese Rolex watches. They normally cost.
No, don't.
You don't
Don't.
think they're worth it?
You even in Kenya
You'll
myself,
cry?
I can't buy a Rolex watch in Kenya.
Yeah.
I either, if they don't have a shop that is belongs to Rolex,
Yeah.
authenticated, and they say it is theirs in Kenya, I'd rather just fly
Yeah, and
to
get it.
England
Yeah.
and from their shop
Get the
or Dubai
original.
and get the original with the transcripts and everything, because
Yeah.
it's like a family heirloom.
Yeah.
And it stores value. You
Yeah.
understand? Some people, instead of buying apartments, they buy proper watches
Mhm.
that they know will retain that value. So in any case, if something happens wrong, you just get your watches and you bounce.
Yeah.
So before we sell our apartments, and now Kagame is invading.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to have the good genuine Rolex, I guess. No, I understand. Do you have any trade schools you've seen that are doing a really good job here? Do you have particular trade schools?
Right now, I'm working with Intra Global.
In a global, yeah.
I'm in partnership with Intra Global.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
are there specific programs these guys are
They
doing?
have a lot of programs there. I just didn't
Yeah.
carry their brochure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think it's like those things like the carpentry or the electrical or I don't,
All those things are there: hairdressing, carpentry, plumbing, electrical,
Uh-huh.
carpent, all those things, so that by the time those kids are out of school, they are well equipped.
Okay.
Mm.
And I've noticed that the world is going maybe a little bit towards that direction now. You know, it used to be that you would want to get the 4-year degree from the university, and now it seems like there's this whole other world that's starting to come now because with the Chat GPT, the AI, maybe now the 4-year degree is like causing some problems because you get a degree in history maybe or something now. You hit Chat GPT, you just type in, tell me about this.
Why do you need to cram all those
Yeah.
things?
Yeah,
You don't
exactly.
even need a professor anymore
Yeah.
to go and confirm and ask them about history. All you need to do is just
Yeah.
key in to ChatGPT and it tells you everything.
Yeah. Well, maybe why don't you tell us a little bit about, you personally, like, where did you come from? And you tell us about your kind of life story, how you became so passionate about these things.
Well, I was born late 80s, and to my parents, John and Janet.
Mhm.
John passed away when I was 2. Janet passed away when I was 7. They both died because of AIDS. AIDS did a number on us,
Yeah.
especially guys from my community.
Which community were you from at the time?
Luo, the same one Obama
Yeah,
is
no.
from.
I know.
Yeah, you guys have had a Luo president.
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
I've been trying to adopt a son for 10 years now from Bundle.
It's because you want him to become president.
He's a big kid now. So
On a lighter note, yeah, I'm from the Luo community.
yeah.
And did a number on AIDS. Really did a number on us.
Yeah, that community is really.
Yes, it was ravaged by AIDS, and mostly relatives, my mother's brothers, my uncles and aunties, have really helped me in my schooling until I got to this level. I started now working, and I'm here.
In the community there, was there a lot of stigma at the time with the AIDS?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not anymore, especially Luo Nyanza. There is no stigma about this thing.
Yeah. So it took some time to
in Luo Nyanza, in other parts of Kenya, yeah. But in Luo Nyanza, where Obama comes from, me and Obama, where we come from, there is no stigma anymore.
Yeah.
Very learned people.
So what was that experience like for you? Maybe you want to go into a little
As an orphan?
Well, as losing a parent.
Yeah, man, as an orphan, one thing you realize when you're living with relatives, and you come to a painful realization that you are disposable.
Yeah.
Because now you have your fellow cousins who you're living at their place, and they do something wrong, and it will be okay after some slap on the wrist. But if you do something wrong, you're out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I experienced some bouts of homelessness here and there. Yeah, so it's crazy.
And tell me about the homelessness. Like, what did that look like for you? Were you just wandering the village, or what is that? Yeah.
It's, you see, homelessness is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it affects your psyche in such a way, it gets to your identity, whereby you don't even believe. The only thing that you're worried about constantly is your rent. Even when you get to a place where by now you're okay, the only thing you're constantly worried about is your rent. Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
So it affects you in such a way, because that's why you have some people who identify as homeless.
Yeah.
Even Kanye West was making homeless clothing because he believes it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So homelessness at an early age, it needed a lot of mental fortitude. At some point in my life, I used to read one book per week. I used to like philosophy. I used to read, there was an old circuit judge called Thomas Troward. I used to read Neville Goddard. I still read up on Jody Spencer. I used to read a lot before my mind got strong enough to conquer my environment.
Yeah.
It used to do a number on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a time I used to live in a tin house with no floor, just earth. You understanding? And
Yeah.
there's a room over here, room over here, room over here. It's crazy. You understanding me?
Yeah.
And at the same time where you're living on a hill. So the houses are built this way. So if you sleep horizontally, you'll find yourself
Yeah,
in the
you're
door.
rolling down the
You have
hill.
to sleep vertically.
And then imagine if the
And
rain
that's my
comes.
early 20s, man.
Yeah.
Are you understanding? But if you see me in town, I'm clean, and over there I'm dreaming.
Wow.
You understand? I thank God for everything I went through, because it gave me that mental fortitude. To a point now, I have a drive, I have a chauffeur.
Yeah.
I have my kids who come to visit me. Normally, just they fly. Flying is a big thing in Kenya.
Yeah.
I understand it's normal in America. You understand?
Well, that's a big,
I have
it's a
them
big
in
money
private
to be
school.
flying. Yeah.
Yeah, have them in private school. You understand? I'm starting a foundation helping other people. I look back and it's kind of it's because I'm just a Luo from Luanda Magere and Obama.
Yeah.
I can't cry. It's impossible, but it's very painful.
Oh, I imagine. And during those times of homelessness, how do you get, when you're homeless in those areas? How do you get food at the time? Do you just wander the?
What I used to do was scavenge with my relatives.
Yeah.
See, during the day, I'd go visit them.
Yeah.
When there is food, now it's nothing to eat in my place. I go there, visit, watch TV. You understand? If I get lucky enough, have a chance to shower, and then go back to my tin house.
Yeah. Wow. That seems crazy. And why do you think that is? I've noticed that's a common theme around a lot of families, where there's maybe the orphan who comes in and they don't get treated quite as well as.
Well, orphans have been having problems since time immemorial, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think that's the life of an orphan.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it builds your character.
Yeah.
Gives you strength.
Yeah, sure.
You understand? Yeah, it builds your character. When you look back, even if you gave me a time machine, I wouldn't change anything. Not even all the hard times, the bad luck, not even all the times maybe I went to prison because of now I'm nothing. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's quite crazy. I saw some of the worst treatment of children when I used to run the children's homes, because you have the situation of the orphans. One of the homes being in Bondo area, that side, for example, one time the children's worker came, and this is the area of the HIV, of course, and so the child, the parents had the AIDS and passed it to the child. So what the children's worker did when they took the child in is they just didn't feed it, hoping it would die.
Wow.
But the child didn't die. It just kept living and living and living.
Wow.
So finally, the children's worker felt guilty and brought it to
wow.
So I opened the blanket that the baby was in, and the arms, the legs were like this thick.
Oh my God.
And you nearly, start shouting at the children's worker, because that's what they're doing. And so finally, the children's worker came after a couple weeks to check on the child. Now the child is fine because we start feeding it. And they say, wow, it's so amazing. What did you do to make the child so healthy? We say, give it some food. That's all you have to do, just give it some food. So these programs are very basic interventions that can really help these situations. It's happening all over
And it
the country.
gives you a sense of purpose to help people.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you're not only earning a living on earth. There's something else you're doing to impact people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you see it, it just takes such little intervention. There's a saying that says, do to one person what you wish you could do for everybody. So I think what you do is, you focus on these kids, maybe they need a trade. Now you're putting them into their life.
Yeah. That's at the end of the day, that's when they need you most. Because I went through it.
Yeah.
I got to a point where by now we've given you all the way to O level. Now you're no longer our problem.
Yes.
Go ye and be.
And sometimes it's the problem with the new Gen Zs because they really struggle. If you even give them the trade now, and then they struggle with the work, I think.
Well, I believe Gen Z is a problem caused by Gen X and the boomers, because they raise children with the mentality that I'll not let my kid go through the same thing I went through.
So maybe
So with that mentality, raising a kid with that mentality, what do you expect?
Yeah, too much privilege maybe, or too much hand holding.
Yeah. At times a Jay-Z who works for me one day called me and told me they are suffering from burnout. What is temperature high, malaria?
We don't have that.
Burnout.
Yeah.
But I had to understand the world.
Yeah, mental health days. And no, I just had a guy who was working for me, and he just stopped showing up to work, and he didn't have any explanation, didn't say anything. Or he called and said that, okay, he had high blood pressure. The guy was 23 years old. So, and with those fake doctor's notes from the ones you could pay 300 shillings from. So, that's kind of a lot of the work ethic you see nowadays. It's a very common thing. So hopefully it's changing. Well, I mean, what do you kind of see as the next step for the Kenyan economy? Like, what do you think is important now?
Well, the government, when it comes to the economy, government is making some right decisions. The effects will be felt down the line. Like I told you, just this week, it's Monday, yeah? So just last week, they reduced the central bank interest rates from 10.4 to 10, and it's been steadily reducing. We are hoping it will get to a rate whereby it's like America, where it's around 4, or even Japan, 0.5%. Because what that does, it also considers the borrowers, the people who want to find capital from banks to access it to enable their ideas. They can access capital at a cheaper rate, and whatever commodity it is they are going to produce for the economy will also be affordable as a result of having cheaper capital.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the long run, it's working, but I am the savior for the Kenyan economy, so I'm coming in the next elections. I will do these things personally.
Well, in the world of politics, I think people know it's like a crazy world. A lot of crazy things are happening behind the scenes. Do you have any kind of crazy stories for us that, maybe it would be an insight that our listeners might be interesting to hear, something, a unique perspective that you have that
just
isn't
recently,
quite available?
I was even calling my assistant Cookie, telling her, should I pass by? There was a member of parliament who was shot dead. So Kenyan politics is also violent, because you must have what do we call them, Arnold? Goons. Kenyan politics is very violent because they treat it like, I don't know, the way drug dealers behave. If you are moving into my constituency, you're moving into my turf.
Right.
So nobody likes that. So they are putting you in a situation where by now you also have to protect yourself. So they also must know that you can do violence.
Right.
You can be very violent. So they'll be just like Russia and America. They have nuclear bombs pointed at each other, but nobody's shooting. But because of that, there is peace.
Yeah, because they know there could be a problem.
So if your opponent is little, you have to be more little, and so that everybody respects themselves. And now everybody has to do their politics. But initially, I got into politics not understanding clearly those dynamics.
Yeah.
It's dynamics that I learned along the way.
Right.
I've been, let me say, attacked in a church.
Mm-hmm.
There was a church I was visiting a group of women, trying to give them some sort of empowerment.
Right.
You know, to empower them through let me call it employment, because I was securing over 100 plastic chairs. It's in a slum somewhere. 100
Sure.
plastic chairs, which those group of women will be renting out on a daily basis. That is around how much money? If it's around 5,000 shillings per day.
Yeah.
For them. That is what it means for them. I've secured that for them. So I was meeting them in a church. But word got out. Some of my opponents did not like it. You understand? So they sent some goons. And
Wow.
apparently, I thought that it's church and people will respect church, but no. So I didn't come prepared with my own security.
Yeah.
So as I am on the podium talking, there's some commotion behind. You understand? At
Sure.
the church entrance, there's some commotion. Somebody telling, hey, we already see you, we are here, we'll deal with you. And I'm still talking over here and I'm trying to assess the situation. First thing that comes to mind is now my cameraman, my people, and all the social media people.
Yeah.
So I begin to tell my guys, make sure these guys find a way of living. Just hide your cameras, hide your phones,
Mm-hmm.
and find a way of living. In fact, it felt the same way Jesus felt when he was being left by his disciples. But I was not ready for any of them to get hurt.
Yeah.
So as soon as they were safe and I was done, I went to meet them, asked them, what is the issue? Telling me, how can you come to our place without not giving us? But I'm telling them, I'm giving you books. Saying, we don't read. Why are you giving us books? But I'm giving to your children. What about us?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. No.
What about your mothers? They say, no, we don't care. They told me they want it's equivalent of $1,000. I don't like 100,000. That's a lot of money in the slum, and
Yeah.
also in Kenya right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of let me say executives that earn $1,000 per month in
Yeah.
Kenya.
Right.
So they wanted that from me. I told them,
Okay.
my friend, that's impossible.
Right.
I can't get this money for you right now.
Yeah.
So I'm buying time, trying to make sure the police arrive in time. But what I figured out is some of the police are in cahoots with some of my opponents. So they made an excuse of not arriving in time. Luckily enough, my guys, my goons,
Came to the rescue.
came to the rescue. Once they came, I had to get on we have in Kenya, we have boda bodas, which is a motorbike.
Yeah.
You get transported by a motorbike.
Yeah.
You understand?
That's my business. The safe border.
The safe border. Now this one is not safe. This is unsafe.
The unsafe border. Yeah.
Unsafe border. Yeah. Who managed to get me? One friend of mine called Brownie. One goon of my friend got me on his bike.
Mhm.
At that time we were riding through the streets of Kangware,
Oh,
and
gosh.
there's like 15 to 20 other bike people chasing me.
Wow.
But the guy was so fast. We made the turn, and those guys were like 800 meters before they got into that turn. And as he was driving, we happened to skid and fall down. I'm thinking, oh my God,
Yeah.
dead. But where we fell down was like a small pathway. You see, they have it's a shanty, so there's some small pathways where even only people can fit. But that's
yeah.
where we fit in with our bike.
Okay.
Our guys are wandering. So by the time they cleared the 800 meters and got into this other corner, we were nowhere to be seen. We got into that pathway slowly and we escaped. That's the way we
Yeah.
escaped.
And you can imagine all that commotion over some plastic chairs.
You imagine?
Yeah.
So from then onwards, if you see me anywhere on the streets and you try me, I will
got your
shine
guy.
on sight.
Yes.
But
Got your
in
guy.
fact, by the time they see you and the people you're with and your guys, they know not to try anything silly.
Yeah.
So that's how to deal with your opponents. It's all about psychology. When they see you collected, calm, and you're in the streets and you're doing your own things, you're doing your own politics, they know not to try anything silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I've experienced a lot of this, maybe not to that extent, because I'm not in the politics, but I'm the type of guy who, I don't, when somebody comes and says, "Oh, I need some lunch money or something," I'm not the type of person who does that easily, if that makes sense. So when I would do maybe some school construction projects, I'd go to the middle of the bush and there'd be all these kids that would need school. So I would organize with the community and okay, we're going to start construction. We're going to do school construction. So one place I went, complete bush, there's nothing. And I start by building the latrines for the toilets. So I build 3 latrines. The guy comes, the education officer, says, now we're going to have you arrested for building these latrines. Okay, why? Well, the school code says you need to have 10 latrines. You have to have boys and girls. And
Oh, he's trying to shake you for something.
yeah, I tried to shake me. So say, okay, now the reason he wants 10 latrines because his guy over. Oh, I've got the contractor right here who's approved to do the work here. So I waited for that guy to leave, and then I contacted my guys who I knew would do the right price, and I said, well, okay, once this guy leaves, or when he comes back, there'll be 10 latrines there. We'll do it ourselves, and we'll make it the American style latrines, the good, perfect quality. Everything.
American style just covers it.
Yes.
So in this part, we understand that. Once you say American style, we already know that
Chinese
image.
ones, not the the guy leaves. He comes back a few days later. There's 10 beautiful latrines. So now he comes and he says, "Now I'm really going to have you arrested." So
Wow.
well, why? It says 10. Well, I'm hungry. I need some lunch and this and that. But then, he said, well, the problem is the cement that you used. This is bad cement. It's endangering the lives of the children. So you've got to be arrested for this now.
Wow, he must have taught you some smack, man.
So I said, I'm sorry, I'm not a construction man. That's not my profession. I'm not a construction guy. I didn't know. The guy sent me this bad cement. So please write down all the
Which
specifications.
cement was it?
This is the normal one.
What
Right.
Bamboo cement?
Yeah, it's just.
Now he's saying it's bad.
So I said, write down the problem with the cement. Exactly. The specifications that are wrong. And I'm going to the police now. And I'm going to say that these guys sold me the bad cement. And I need them arrested. So not me, but the guy about the cement.
What did he do? Did he write
He
that?
couldn't do nothing because there's no problem. But every day when you're building schools.
Where was that?
This was in Uganda. So this is in northern
yeah,
Uganda.
man, Kenyan cannot be that damn.
But in Kenya, it's just, they're similar. I've built schools in Kibera. I mean, I've been there on the ground in these places, and it's not easy.
Uganda. Uganda is another situation altogether.
It's different. Yeah, it's very different.
But one thing I believe is that there are no oppressors, only weak people.
Yes.
Yeah. There are no oppressors, only weak people. Yeah. In Kenya, you cannot try such things. We will die here. You can.
Well, it's just so funny because when I first came to Kenya,
you say you want to rule over us forever.
Yeah.
We will die here. You will rule over corpses.
Yeah.
You saw what happened last year.
Yes.
The government was insistent on passing the finance bill. And the Kenyans said, okay, you want to pass this draconian finance bill on us in parliament that we built. We know where that parliament is. They went and burnt parliament.
Yeah,
you understand? So there are no oppressors, just weak people.
Yeah.
So for the Ugandans, they must wake up. There is Museveni is not an oppressor. Ugandans are the weak people. You should not take that.
Well, and I think it's just in general for people to, I don't know how to change the system. I mean, that's the biggest problem.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's no, listen, like I said, my principle, there are no oppressors, just weak people.
Yeah. It's very interesting because when
You're coming to me for my life, for everything that I live for, everything that you want to take that away from me, we die here.
Very, very interesting.
No, that's we die here. Spartan mentality.
Yeah. Well, it's it's definitely a crazy world out there for sure. It's
but that's the only way to. Let me tell you, that's the only way to live.
I know when I first came here, I really struggled because I didn't know.
Why do you think your country has such a huge military budget? Because they understand at the end of the day, despite everything, violence is king. If these guys want to step on our toes and tread on us, we die here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the U.S. has a long history of getting involved in some things.
No, what is your military budget? It's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. It's more than the healthcare.
It's more than some countries' GDPs, man. It's crazy.
Way more. Maybe one.
You understand?
Is more than.
if we for some instance decide to play with you here and say that we've kidnapped you, even for jokes, won't be more than 1 hour.
There'll be a helicopter
Guys will be
coming.
here.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody.
Which is nice. I mean, it's good. There's some advantages to have
Being
being
in
American.
America. So
There's some
you
good things.
understand violence.
Mhm.
Listen, people say money rules the world. It's violence that rules the world.
Mhm.
Because you got to be willing to be more violent than the violent person.
Yeah,
You got, as a good person, you got to be willing to go beyond that.
yeah,
If this person is a dictator, you got to be willing to do worse.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's can be dangerous out there. I know there's some politicians in some of these projects I had to deal with. I mean, I didn't realize it at the time, but I think there were some pretty scary guys that had the violence with them, and I think I knew some guys I think that had been poisoned. Some distant things, got involved in some things that they shouldn't have been involved in, maybe. And I didn't know when I first came. I would, somebody would say, "Oh, I need I need a soda. I need. Oh, fine. You want to? Oh, you need a soda? You're thirsty? Okay, let me bring you the sparkling water, the soda." I didn't know these things that were happening at the time. Whenever I would try to get involved in some of these projects, and I would say I got into a little bit of danger zone with these guys.
Once you get in over there, number one, okay, there's going to be some exchange of money, but exchange with the right person.
Yeah.
You understand? The most violent person who controls them.
Yes.
Deal with him. And once you've dealt with him,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that way even in the favelas.
Uh-huh.
I think it's that way everywhere, including with the rednecks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more subdued, or it's more straightforward in the U.S. I think. I mean,
it's not to these levels in the U.S. because obviously you guys are doing well. You understand?
Yeah,
so there's not a lot of desperate people as compared to our nation here in Kenya, Africa.
Yeah.
The number of desperate people in US is at a minimum. In Kenya, even somebody in a suit and tie like this,
exactly.
you might throw 100,000 shillings over here. We forget about this. We'll go there and pick that money.
Yeah, exactly. I guess to be a big challenge. I think in the U.S. I don't know how to describe it, but it's more straightforward. I think, guys are getting involved in these things, but they just come out and directly talk about it.
But it started with violence. You remember the Wild West?
Yes, it was.
You remember
I come from
stories
Texas,
from Wyatt Up and those guys?
I know. I live those places. I'm from Texas. We say don't mess with Texas.
So don't fraud on me on stuff like that. The Cowboys. So at the end of the day, before you found yourself as a nation, there was a period of darkness.
Yes.
You are understanding? Yeah.
And I guess Kenya is still sort of in that transition.
Yeah, we are in that transition.
Yeah.
We are trying to discover ourselves politically, but it's beginning to emerge.
Yeah.
People from a certain region want this, and people from a certain region want this. Just like in your times, immediately before the Civil War and after the Civil War, it began to emerge that the Confederates, this is what they want.
Yeah.
And the Yankees, this is what they want.
Yeah.
So how will we live together?
Yeah. Well, it is kind of interesting because, they talk about, let's say, corruption in Kenya, and people say, there's no way that Kenya could live without corruption. It's just part of it's got to be here. There's no way it could ever exist.
Again.
It's the same way in the Civil War, in the U.S. where there was slavery, and people
very different.
Well,
you can live without slavery.
You see,
it's different, man. It's different. You can't compare the two, man.
But see, what I mean is, but people at the time of the Civil War, they would have those conversations. They would say, if we get rid of slavery, our economy will collapse.
Yes.
There was a group of people. Not
in
everybody.
Kenya, corruption is not about it's socio-economic.
Right.
Because these leaders that we have in Kenya that we are calling corrupt did not come from Australia or Taiwan.
Yes, exactly.
They are our brothers, our fathers, our mothers, our children, our sisters. The values they hold are the values we share deep within.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that we can recognize they're doing wrong, it takes one to know one.
Yes.
So there's very same energy. So unless we change that drastically. But this is what I say, and it has been said.
Yes.
Corruption is the price a society pays for neglecting the poor.
Yes.
If we make better monetary policies, I'm not saying it's going to reduce, but it's going to end, but it's going to reduce greatly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we keep on neglecting the borrowers and only benefiting the lenders, then we'll have the gap between the rich and the poor will widen, like what we have in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Do you know the
Oh, yeah.
gap is crazy? You
Yeah,
can have a person in the city of Nigeria driving cars that we only billionaires in America drive.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
can
right.
see
Oh, yeah.
Rolls Royce and stuff like that in Nigeria, and there are lots.
Yeah,
You understand?
great.
And the same city of Nigeria, people don't have electricity. People
Yeah,
are living,
crazy.
and it's a lot of them. The number is crazy.
Yeah.
You know why? Look at the central monetary policy rate, 27%.
Oh,
That is a society that has neglected the poor.
yeah. Well, great talking to you, Brian. I think it's about all the questions I have. I don't know if there's any other things you want to get out there or discuss, but I think
Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough. brico.co.ke. That is our website. Brico, BRICO. That is our website. Our social media platforms are Brian. You know how to spell Brian with an I. Oduor is Oduor. It is on all platforms except Pornhub. So,
and you know, you'll probably make more money if you put it out there.
yeah,
So.
come on. I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
You can find me on TikTok, find me on Instagram. You can find me on, which is that on Facebook and Twitter. I am not the one operating these accounts because honestly, I believe social media is really destructive to the mind. And my people are over there who will contact you anytime, American time, Kenyan time, somebody will be active there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, great having you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us and taking your busy time out of your day, but we really appreciate it.
Asante sana. Thank you for hosting me too.